This is the Answer Your Unique Calling podcast. You came to this life with a purpose and a soul-level mission. You were given gifts and unique abilities to achieve that purpose, but somewhere, other people told you that you needed to be someone else and do something different. You lost your magic. Hello, I'm spiritual life and business coach Julian Crosson-Hill, and I help people rediscover the deep magic of being who you are and then using that magic to change the world around you. Through this podcast, I share tools, tips, and inspiring stories for getting in touch with that magic once more and discovering the possibilities for creating change wherever you desire. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Answer Your Unique Calling podcast. I'm your host, Julian Crosson-Hill, and today on the Answer Your Unique Calling podcast, we're going to talk about humane marketing with Sarah Santacroce. Sarah, over a decade of running successful LinkedIn consulting business, inspired a yearning in Sarah to create a global movement that encourages people to bring more empathy and kindness to business and marketing. As a hippie turned conscious business coach, Sarah has written 2 books, hosts the Humane Marketing podcast, and works with heart-centered entrepreneurs to question their assumptions when it comes to marketing and give them permission to market their business their way, the gentle way. She also offers one-on-one conscious business coaching for forward-thinking change agents who want to create their life's work and contribute to make this world a better place. Sarah shares a fresh perspective and doesn't shy away from calling things out that no longer work for many of us when it comes to the current marketing model. Her clients sometimes refer to her as the female Seth Godin. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's so nice to be with you, Julian.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about humane marketing marketing is such a huge thing that new entrepreneurs in particular struggle with. And of course, as soon as you hang your business shingle, all the sort of business coaches come out of the woodwork, and I did air quotes there, come out of the woodwork to tell you their system or to sell you lead generation or all of these things. So you've created humane marketing, and it was sort of a response to some of the things that you saw in traditional marketing that you felt didn't work or just weren't really ethical. So can you tell us a little bit, what was it that sort of sparked humane marketing? What turned you off about marketing that made you create this revolution?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's basically my own journey in this online marketing world. So my first business, I kind of started it in 2006, and that was in the middle of the social media boom, and so like you said, every guru was out there promoting their thing that worked, and this is how you have to do marketing and funnels and clickbait and lead generation, all of these things, right? And it felt like more and more as time went by, these things actually, instead of getting more ethical, they got less ethical. And I felt like, it was all a bit market of manipulation and pushing people. It was all very profit oriented, which never kind of resonated with me as a hippie turned conscious business coach, right? There's this hippie upbringing in there. And it's just like, well, yes, I'm in business. Yes, I want to make money. And I want to make money also to be able to give back to, the problems that we are facing right now. And so money making is not the thing, but it still felt like the way we were taught marketing, it was not so much about actually, being in service, but only about getting people's money and filling our own pockets. And so that just never felt good. And so yeah, more and more, I felt like, well, I'm just probably not made for this business thing, because it really does feel like you described, once you're out there, it feels like, well, this is just how business works. Business is tough. That's how you do things. That's how you do marketing. It is just by these, manipulative strategies. And so I just thought, well, I guess it's just not for me anymore. Like I really was close to giving up and saying, well, I can't do this anymore. It made me sick. Like really, I suffered from insomnia. I think with the lack of integrity that I kept feeling more and more strongly, I felt like I'm doing things, even though I've always kind of felt like I'm doing things a bit differently. I still felt like I'm doing things that are out of integrity, that I just didn't feel good. And so that's where, humane marketing, or back then I called it gentle marketing, was born out of it's usually when change is created is when there is just no other way, right? And that's really what I felt like. I'm like, I'm going to give up, or I'm going to come up with another way to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And I think spiritual entrepreneurs especially should resonate with what you're saying, because money shouldn't be the first order of business in our businesses. We're really there to serve and to share what we've discovered, but we still got to pay bills, and
right.
there's definitely that sort of dichotomy, and how do you sort of balance that? So can you give some examples of traditional marketing techniques? Because I think sometimes people who have been around marketing for a little while, or are new in business and have been watching what everyone else doesn't know how to recognize these things.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I feel like, unfortunately, over the years, even people who call themselves heart-centered entrepreneurs, or even spiritual entrepreneurs, I guess, they will still use kind of the mainstream and what I call hype and bro marketing techniques, because that's just the only thing that we see out there. And so I'm not pointing fingers at them. I'm just saying, look, it's not your fault, because there is just not enough different kind of marketing out there. So I just want to point that out first. And so some of the typical marketing things we see is, the funnels, people being pushed through funnels, where it feels like there's a lot of manipulative strategy behind it just to get you to buy. So I'm thinking of, people who create programs, online video courses, where the intention is not so much to serve, but the intention is to get you to buy this video course. And then, who cares what happens next? And so there's these very kind of sophisticated funnels that we learn about, and they're like again, even in the heart-centered space, they kind of make you feel like it feels good, but then you still feel the manipulation. You still feel like you're not empowered as the client. And so it's this is your last chance kind of message, and you're gonna miss out. A lot of the kind of hype marketing is oriented, like the problem with it is often the language, not so much the technique. Yes, we can do Facebook ads, for example, in a humane marketing way. It just depends how we are wording our marketing. In hype marketing, pushy marketing, it's manipulative. It's based on these psychological tricks that we are taught as marketers. This is what works, right? And so people will kind of try to manipulate you, to shame you, to highlight these pain points that you have, and look at how bad of a situation you're in, Julian, and this program is going to fix it. And so kind of overblowing the problem that you have, so that you are kind of like, sitting in a puddle of shame and just feel like you have to now buy this course. So it's those kind of strategic things that we are taught with the whole, pain points, funnels, manipulation, all of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it doesn't always feel good
No,
to
it
do those
doesn't.
things. Yeah.
And do you
So,
recognize any of these techniques?
yeah, absolutely. You see them all the time, and I've heard coaches say things like, tell their clients things like, tell people there's only 2 seats left, even if you haven't sold any seats. And I'm like, you're lying to people. Like, that's a straight up lie. But I also understand. I've done programs. I teach a lot of classes, and people do wait to the last minute to commit. So how do we, in a gentle marketing way, kind of nudge people like, come on, you need to commit for this program to even happen?
Right. Yeah. So that's a very good question. Is like, well, where does, is humane marketing, does that mean that we just throw out all the marketing strategies and we just sit back and, meditate and hope that clients come to us? And no, it's not that. It's, again, like I'm kind of promoting my Marketing Like We're Human program right now. And it's still about, showing up and sharing those messages. And for example, I had a super early bird, and then an early bird. And so I will also explain that actually an early bird is in your favor because you're saving money, and it's in my favor because then I know, oh, there's already 3 people who are interested. And so I think it's a lot about showing and sharing with transparency what you're actually doing, so
Mm.
that when you do say, yes, these are tomorrow is the end of the early bird, this is not to push you into buying now, but just presenting it as an opportunity, as a win-win for you and for me. So again, it's all about the language and how you present it. And I think, yes, sometimes we need to kind of gently nudge people and say, look, I'm running this program right now. I honestly don't know yet if I'll run it again. And this is not because, I'm making this up. It's just the truth. And maybe explain why you don't know yet if you're going to run it again. So it's all about the show what you're doing behind the scenes rather than just using these formulas that people are like, oh, this is just BS marketing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that the point you're really making for me and what I'm hearing is about being a little bit vulnerable on the business side, because
Right,
sometimes people hide behind their businesses. They don't put
right,
themselves in their brand, and they don't sort of get out there and be like, I'm doing this. I don't know if I'm going to offer it again for these reasons. We don't usually see that in business. Businesses don't talk about their objectives or their plans or things like that.
right.
It's all sort of hidden behind a screen. So it's really about that vulnerability. I love that.
That's
Um,
true.
how do we know that humane marketing actually works?
Mm. I think the question I always ask instead is like, you will know if humane marketing doesn't work for you anymore. I think that's the point where you're like, actually, the marketing the way I do it now, like I said before, makes me sick or gives me insomnia or gives me anxiety, or then you're like, well, the marketing you're doing now is not working for you as a person. Is it working for you in your business? Like, is it actually getting you clients? Well, then I would say, well, maybe you need to slowly transition into more of a humane marketing strategy. Start using different words and being more empathic and gentle, and I'm sure you'll actually double your results if you're already getting results. The problem I usually see is when the typical kind of bro marketer is only focused on transactions and not relationships. And so, yes, if they've been pushing their clients and basically just focusing on short-term results and getting sales, and then all of a sudden coming in with this more gentle, humane approach, well, yeah, people are not going to buy anymore. They're going to be completely confused and go, well, what's going on, right? But the thing is, with the hustle or the bro marketing, you have to keep doing that forever, because the minute you stop, there's no more clients, right? Where with humane and gentle marketing, you're building on something. It's ongoing. It's relationship marketing. It's referral marketing. And so the way you start to notice that humane marketing is working is obviously, yes, clients, but also just feeling better, getting thank you notes, just in general, like feeling better in your business and getting these long time relationships. And so what I talk about at the end of the Marketing Like We're Human book is this gentle transition into humane marketing. So where if we have been using kind of like this hype marketing, these funnels, if we've learned from another guru marketer basically, and so you're listening to this and you're like, maybe there's some of the things that I want to change, then I would say, yeah, change slowly. Get rid of one thing that you're like, I just cannot do this one anymore. Like I remember for me, it was all the subject lines that had to do with 6 figures or 7 figures, like basically shaming people that they don't have a 6, 7, or 8-figure business yet, right? So many email marketing advice you see is always based on that 6, 7-figure business thing. I'm like, I'm never, ever going to send anything like that again, right? And so that's
Yeah.
just one thing that I started. And so, yeah, go step by step. And another tip, I guess, is unsubscribe from the things that make you feel bad. Like if you're
Yeah.
still getting marketing emails that you're like cringe or shame or anything, start unsubscribing from that and go like, no, I'm no longer wanting to be manipulated into something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate the six-figure thing, and the high ticket is the other one. I'm like,
Yeah, I took it as the other one.
I want to sell my services at a fair price, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it needs to be
Right.
fair for my clients and fair for me. So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. How do we? So gentle marketing is what you started out calling it. Now you've kind of called it humane marketing, and it's all about bringing more empathy into business, which can be a rough world sometimes, and not the most like caring or gentle world. So how do we bring more empathy into business and inspire other people to do the same?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned one thing is vulnerability, right? That is one thing. And you notice that when you show up with vulnerability, it's just everybody else starts to take their mask off as well. And I think that's a big part of humane business is doing business with people, with humans, and not with other masks. And the only way to do that is taking off your own mask and really showing up as who you are. And people kind of go, wow, that's different. I can just be who I am, around Julian. And so it's kind of this ripple effect. And that's, to me, that's where empathy starts. And the other thing you said was fair pricing. Well, because pricing is always kind of a touchy-feely thing because it touches our emotions whenever there's money involved. And so, having these human conversations about difficult topics is one part of bringing more empathy into business. It's really about using our emotional intelligence and bring that into business rather than always coming from this the other intelligence that can't, what is it, cognitive intelligence? I can't remember what the opposite of emotional intelligence is right now, but basically using our left brain and our right brain. I think humane marketing is a lot about using our right brain and bringing emotions to business, such as empathy and kindness, for example, and heart in general.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm glad you mentioned emotional intelligence because it's an area that business needs. I've worked at a lot of startups, and a lot of young startup leaders don't have a great deal of emotional intelligence. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Usually in marketing, there's a lot of like principles and techniques that or things that you consider in your marketing. Like, I've done a lot of branding work, and they always talk about, your color and your mood and all these different aspects. Does humane marketing have some core sort of things that you sort of look at to devise how you're going to do humane marketing?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, that definitely the color aspects and all of that is more the branding. I think what nowadays also, at least the kind of branding people I follow, they would also start with, values and worldview and things like that. And so that's also what humane marketing is a lot about. It's if you think of just going to hold up my 7 P's of humane marketing. So if you think of the mandala of the 7 P's of humane marketing, we start with passion and personal power. So I think really one of the big differences of humane marketing is that we, I forgot you're only recording the audio, so people are not going to see that, but I'll send you a picture so maybe you can put it into the show notes, the 7 P's of humane marketing. So in traditional marketing, people always, every kind of program I've ever taken, they always start with the client avatar, right? That's the first thing you have to know is the client avatar. And so it's very outward focused. And so in humane marketing, that's why sometimes I call it, personal development / business development, is because we are actually wanting to start with ourselves first. So we want to look at who we are, what our values are, our story, our personality types, our human design, intent, all of these things that make us who we are. so that we can show up authentically. Because so often you hear, oh, you just have to be authentic in business and marketing, but well, how, so it's really about going deeper into who you are, also your why. So the passion, the P for passion is all about your why are you in business? What are you here to serve? Who are you here to serve? What is the problem that you're solving? All of these bigger questions that we need to look at before we go into, well, here are the techniques or the tactics or the platforms that we're going to be on. And yet, most of the time in marketing, people just want instant solutions and go, oh, but I've been active on Facebook, for months now and nothing's happened. Well, it's probably because you haven't actually looked at who you are in this business persona, because again, humane marketing is about authentic relationships. And so if you're not really have never looked at who you are as a person, how are you going to bring that into your marketing? So it's really going deep into you and your story. That's also where I came full circle with my hippie upbringing. Back in the days in my LinkedIn consulting business, I did not mention once that I grew up in a hippie commune. It was just like, oh, this is not business related. I'm going to hide that as good as I can. And now I feel like, well, that's part of me. It's a big part of me and my values. And so it often comes up in conversation because I really feel like that's a big part of marketing, of humane marketing, of connection, of communication. There's this saying that people do business with people. I feel like people do business with people who stand for something today, in the stage we're in our planet and all these issues that we need solving. Marketing is about standing for something. And you really need to bring all of those things into your marketing because people connect at that deeper level with you. And then it's just like, well, I have 10 people that I could be working with for human design, but I really resonate with Julian's worldview. He's more than just, the human design expert. He brings these topics about social responsibility that I really resonate with. I'm going to work with him. Of course, I'm going to work with him, right? So that's, to me, all part of humane marketing.
Yeah, I love that it starts with who you are, because we don't do enough of that reflection in business. We spend so much time focused on who our clients are and how do we convince them to buy from us that we don't spend the time doing that work. Right. I want to bring up something that I think is confusing sometimes to new business owners, and that is the difference between marketing and selling. So you have a second book, Selling Like We're Human. So where does marketing sort of stop and selling pick up?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny because I never thought I would write a book about selling, but then when I published the first book, people are like, well, what about selling? And exactly for that reason, this confusion, what is marketing? What is selling? And I do feel like that people who have a sales problem, they should definitely start with the marketing, because marketing is all about warming up. It's about having these relationships. It's about, having your network of trusted people. It's about bringing all of you to your marketing, the worldview, et cetera. And then the selling will be much less about selling and just about a human conversation, whether the solution that I offer is a good fit for that person. Because to me, who has definitely never defined myself as a salesperson, I want people to just kind of resonate with what I offer and then have a conversation about that and say, hey, that's actually is really what I need. And I already, resonate with who you are. So I'm ready. How do we get started? And so I talk about in the Selling Like We're Human book, I talk about a gentle sales path, who is about these different signposts rather than the typical funnel where we all shove everybody through the same funnel. The gentle sales path and the signpost gives people the power back, meaning they can go, there's different ways on this gentle sales path. Maybe some people are going to go, straight and they want the shortcut directly to a human conversation. Other people are going to listen to the podcast first, or read my blog post, or like it really gives the person the power back without pushing, so that when they're ready, they're like, yeah, can we talk about this? So that's where, again, in a way, the gentle sales path focuses on the marketing, because if you think about what I just said, everything, blog posts, podcasts, all of these things, they're part of marketing, right? They're part of you putting yourself out there as a human, but also as the expert in your field. So
yeah. I love that you call it a human conversation. So, favorite book of mine is The Prosperous Coach by Steve Chandler. And one of the things he says is, don't sell people, coach them powerfully, and then they'll be ready to sign up. You don't have to just coach them, just give them some coaching, because most people don't experience coaching. And, that's my field. So it's the field I know the most, but people don't know that they need coaching. They don't know what it is. And then when they experience it and have that experience of it, and you've, gone into that coaching conversation with a service mindset, it sort of changes the conversation. So, why do you think it is that small business owners are so uncomfortable selling what they do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's different things. It's definitely related to, sometimes we come to being in business from like this corporate environment where we just hide behind a brand, a logo, and we don't have to actually sell ourselves. Then it can also be personality related. I do feel like, certain personalities are even less comfortable with selling. It's definitely a confidence question. But I think altogether, again, if we first look at who we are and tap into our strengths and only do the kind of marketing that aligns with who we are and aligns, I guess, with our human design, since we're, you know so much about human design, and we actually talked about this on the podcast. So maybe you can link up to the conversation we had on the Humane Marketing podcast. I think once we are aligned with the things that we do, then there is flow. There is not so much, oh, I hate marketing, because then they probably don't think of it as marketing anymore, but they just think of it as, I talk about what I'm passionate about. I talk about my worldview. I talk about, yes, what I'm offering, but I'm offering it because I know it helps people, right? So it's all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like marketing becomes easier when you're not trying to do these traditional techniques, and you're not trying to understand the psychology and word it in a certain way that's sort of, going to cause people to want to buy and all of that stuff. It just sort of becomes more of a flow. Like, I enjoy blogging, I enjoy doing my podcast, and it's fun. It becomes fun. And so I love that. And I think part of the thing that gets in the way of selling is sometimes it feels like you're asking people for their money. And I think there's a lot of really need to understand the value of what you offer, because you're not just asking people to give you money. You're giving them value. It's an exchange. And of course it needs to be a fair exchange, which brings up all of the pricing things. So you've talked in the past about fair pricing. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what is fair pricing, and how should a small business person approach their pricing?
Yeah. And you kind of gave a great intro, because it has to do with the value that you're offering, right? And first of all, I think you need to be confident about this value that you're offering, and you need to be really aligned with saying, no, this is the value that I really give you, and yes, in return, I'd like to be paid this price. And I think it depends. Everybody has a different understanding, and we also are in different circumstances. And so a fair price to you looks different from a fair price for me, and that's okay, right? In the end, I think it's about yes, the value that you're offering, and then having the conversation. So I've really moved away to just having a pay button somewhere on my programs or even my one-on-one coaching and say, this is the price, pay this or get lost. It's more like, well, yes, this is the price I'd like to ask for, because I know the value that's behind my services, but let's have a human conversation around it. How does this look like on your end? Can you pay this? Do we need to come up with a creative payment plan? I started kind of like creating these trust contracts where we say, given that I've invested so much in my gentle sales path, I really think that people who have a gentle sales conversation with me, I trust them. They're my people, I trust them. And so if we need to split up the payments into several payments, I'm not going to up the payment just because it's a payment plan. There's a whole conversation around that. And for some people, maybe that's a must. For me, it's not. But then really just saying, yeah, we trust each other. I trust that you're going to pay me. You trust that I'm going to, give you the value that I promise, and we sign it, and then we can have a payment plan over 6 months instead of 3 months. So like just having this conversation that is difficult because it's about money and because we're all in different situations. So to me, that is fair pricing. There's other people who talk more about the pay what you can pricing. That's another thing that I've recently put in place with the circle, our community that you're also part of, where it's like, well, it's true, that is a membership, right? So it's again, to me, yes, I'm giving time. Yes, I'm giving, even money, if you like, because I have to pay for the platform. But it's something that I feel like, well, it can be definitely a lower price. And maybe I can even have different prices, even though people get the same service. Meaning that some people can afford more. That's just how the world is, right? Some people have access to more money. Other people have access to less money. And so there's different, I wouldn't call them levels, because everybody gets equal access to everything. And so the way I've seen that being called is sustainable pricing, right? It's like, let's make something that is sustainable for different people at different levels. And I really like that idea as well. So yeah, just kind of questioning all your assumptions about pricing. And it takes vulnerability again, because you're like, well, let's have this conversation about money, which is vulnerable always. So
yeah, and people struggle to talk about money, and it's hard to get on a call and be like, I can't afford that. So I think that's why sometimes people avoid even doing the intro call, because they know that's going to come up sometimes.
Right.
And I love that you mentioned payment plans, because I offer payment plans, and I do offer them longer than the time we work together, because some people need that. And, then there is that trust there. And I also, I've seen people really jack up the price for payment plans. And it just, to me, that felt really icky. Like, why am I so this person can't afford to pay me in a lump sum, and I'm going to penalize them by charging them more over time. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
It just shows that there's no trust that was built beforehand. And so I would always also, like back in the days, I would also have I can't remember the percentage, but it would be higher, because by experience, I noticed that some people did not end up paying all the payments. What I realized is actually that's not on them. It's on me, because I haven't actually built that trust into that relationship. Because if you just offer a random service and people, you don't actually have the conversation, well, then it's easy to just switch credit card and, not pay anymore. But if you had that human connection and conversation, there is that trust. So,
because you're not going to stiff your friends. And so,
exactly.
Exactly. So it kind of changes the whole dynamic. I love that. So if I were say I'm a new spiritual entrepreneur, I'm just starting my business. I've done no marketing. I'm starting from scratch. And maybe I don't want to jump into traditional marketing and hype and bro marketing. How would you tell someone brand new to get started with their marketing if they are starting with nothing?
Yeah. I would definitely first think about, again, yourself. Like, what do you enjoy? Do you enjoy writing? Do you enjoy meeting people in person? Do you enjoy videos, being on video? Like, find out first what is it that you actually enjoy from all these marketing things that you've seen out there, and then decide, okay, this is one thing that I feel like I could do on a long-term basis. Because let's face it, everything we do, well, at least 6 months we have to do it in order to see whether that resonates with anybody. So first, find out, well, if we're thinking introvert, extrovert, introverts tend to like more to write and do things that are on their own, and extroverts really enjoy the networking in person. And so really think, okay, which things do I enjoy? And then start thinking about, well, where do my people hang out? Like my ideal client, right? That typical ideal client avatar, where would I find them? Do I focus first on those networking events? Should I find conferences or local events that I should go to? Or if I'm a complete introvert like myself, you're probably not going to like networking. Well, then how can I come up with opportunities to have my content in front of people? And that also brings up the whole topic of social media, because clearly that's like one of the marketing tactics that every marketer tells you. You have to be on social media and you have to post this many days. And quite honestly, Julian, between you and I think we're coming to the end of social media. It served its purpose. I still feel like there's a great opportunity for using social media for one-on-one messages, but the whole idea of creating content and just creating this interest for your business by just posting and content creation, we're getting to the end of that. The algorithms are just, they're not meant for so many people creating so much content. I said that in my last years of the LinkedIn consulting business, and this was like pre-COVID. I said, well, eventually we're going to have to pay for our LinkedIn posts just like we do for our Facebook posts. And we're now at that stage, and we're not paying, but we're seeing zero, engagement or return. And so it really has come full circle. People, and the thing is, the people who tell you that you should be doing all of these things are the ones who created their businesses back in the days when, it still worked, when there was very little competition, and it's just, there wasn't this complete content overflow. So I would be, before you go on social media and create all these Instagram reels, think about, where's my biggest return on investment and what do I enjoy? That's where I would start.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the social media thing, because I think people who come to my business and want to work with me, they've started as a spiritual entrepreneur, and maybe they don't know that there's business coaching, and maybe they don't know that they need my services, but the algorithm is feeding them more of what they already like and already engage with. So they're never going to see something different and new. They're going to see things that reinforce their existing biases through that algorithm, because it's all about keeping them on the platform, keeping them clicking, keeping them reading. And so the likelihood that they're going to discover my content is pretty low. The people who are on my social media have already interacted with me. They've listened to my podcast. They've gone to one of my workshops. They're already my fans. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So how does someone who's brand new to humane marketing, or maybe they're just hearing about it on this podcast, how do they get started? How do they learn how to start to implement this?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, I have the 7 P's of humane marketing. And so it comes with a 1-page marketing plan. And the idea, like in everything I do with humane marketing, is really to think deeply about your marketing. So it's not the, quick fix strategies. It's about thinking deeply And so this one-page marketing plan comes with 7 email prompts to think about these different P's in your business. And we just mentioned passion and personal power, but then the next one is people. So that's your ideal client. And then it's your P for product, pricing, promotion, and partnership. So just to think really deeply about these different P's, how do they fit into your business, and how have you got them covered? So I think that would be a good introduction. So people can get that at humane.marketing/one page. And that's the number 1 in the word page. So I think that's a good introduction. And otherwise, kind of like you found my work, I guess, through the Marketing Like We're Human book. If they go to humane.marketing/book 1, there's a free chapter that they can download for that 1 page. For the Marketing Like We're Human book, where I share, my story. I really feel like it was a very personal book for me. It's like, here's what I experienced in this online marketing world. And so if your listeners are like, I feel so overwhelmed with all of this, then that would be a good place to start.
Yeah, I read that book in an afternoon, and it was one of those things that just turned up in my suggestions in Amazon. And I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting, Marketing Like We're Human. And I bought it, and I consumed it in like an afternoon. It was just so, it was a big light bulb went off that was like, you mean I don't have to do this stuff? I can just do it my way. And and since then, I've been an evangelist about just do it your way. Just do it your way. Like, so yeah. So definitely recommend that book very highly. And how do people get in touch with you and learn about your programs, or interact with your content, or just learn more about humane marketing from you?
Yeah. So again, the website, I guess, humane.marketing. I have also my own podcast, the Humane Marketing Show, which you were a guest on. So we'll link to that. And then we have the Humane Marketing Circle, our community, which you're also part of, where we basically come together and create this movement or this revolution together. And we think it's not your typical membership. That would be ironic, where I just teach you, okay, here are the 6 steps. It's more like, well, again, let's go deep. Let's question all our assumptions. Let's share what works for us in our marketing so that other people can learn what works for them. It's really about this human collective intelligence sharing. And that's what I feel like we're creating in the Humane Marketing Circle. So I'd love to have you part of that, by the way, as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've gotten so much out of that, because it's always interesting hearing what other people are doing and how they're reinventing marketing to have more empathy and be more human. And I've gotten some great ideas from the conversations. I've also been challenged to sort of think about some of the things that I do from listening to it. So it's really, I can't recommend the membership enough. And it is an untraditional membership, because it's not going there and seeing a video of Sarah every month that tells you to go do this. It's about getting on a call and having those human conversations with people about an aspect of marketing. So yeah, wonderful. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show. I think you've given people a lot to think about today, about how they approach their marketing, how they approach their selling, and about just making business gentler and bringing more empathy and caring into it, which, I really think we're all trying to do here. And most spiritual entrepreneurs are trying to do. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to share your ideas with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And I think it really is that time now. People are ready for more spirituality also in the business world. So I think all your listeners are doing such important work. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels like there's a movement happening. So
yeah, thank you.
This has been the Answer Your Unique Calling podcast with spiritual life coach Julian Crosson-Hill. Help others discover this podcast by leaving a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Did this episode speak to you? Is there something you'd like to hear more about? Have a suggestion for a guest you'd like to hear? Send me a message on social media or use the contact page on my website to let me know, www.priestofinanna.com. That's Priest of Inanna, INANNA.com. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Priest of Inanna. Thanks for listening.